So, a lot of people who come into my office really struggle around emotional eating. And most have never disclosed that to a physician or a healthcare provider because they haven't felt like it was a safe space to discuss it. For such a long time, we have treated obesity and overweight as a problem of willpower. If you just work on yourself, if you just, tough it out, you should be able to do this. That has been the very patriarchal conversation. And there are still many books today that really come from that perspective of, well, you should just be able to figure this out. There are, so-called health experts out there who are mostly not in the medical community and mostly in the sort of wellness community who are really anti-medication because they have a strong bias that we shouldn't need medications for the treatment of obesity and overweight. And I think that's really quite short-sighted. So when someone is struggling with emotional eating, it often is really helpful to figure out what are the triggers that are leading them to that. Our medications, especially our GLP-1 medications, can be really helpful in helping to reduce food cravings and food chatter so that people's, emotional eating really goes way down. But we can also learn behavioral strategies that can be helpful. So if I understand when I am turning to food, when I am making choices that are not in alignment with my goals, I have the ability to do some work around what do I want to do differently. A very common pattern that I encounter is often a working parent who does well all day, right? They're making healthy food choices until the kids go to bed. And once the kids are in bed, then the snacks come out. They sit on the couch. They might be scrolling their phone or watching Netflix until way too late, but often eating a lot of snacks. If that's a pattern, then I need to recognize that I am working so hard all day, throughout the day, usually taking care of other people, taking care of work-related tasks, and I am not having any time or space for myself. I am not being kind to myself. I am not getting any natural dopamine hits. I'm just work, 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 work. If that's the case, when I get to the end of the day and I'm exhausted, and I'm looking for a hit of feel good, I'm going to turn to snacks. I'm going to turn to my phone. I'm going to turn to Netflix, right? Those easy hits of dopamine that really ramp us up. Instead, I might need to figure out, how do I get natural hits of dopamine? How do I give myself some pleasure and some relaxation during the day, even in little doses, so that I don't get to the end of the day and I just feel like I can't make any other choice. So that is one common eating pattern, and that can be really helpful to work through. Sometimes people stay really focused on their work all day. They maybe skip lunch. This is especially true for people who have ADHD and neurodivergence, on or off medications. They're just really focused on their work. They don't take a lunch break. And then they get to 3, 4, 5 in the afternoon, and they just find themselves hitting the snacks. And, sometimes those people have eaten lunch, but there is something that calls them, at that late afternoon, and they just find themselves eating a lot of foods that they wouldn't otherwise choose. When that happens, all right, what do I need to do? Do I need a break there? If I haven't eaten lunch, I probably need to take a midday break and fuel myself so I don't get to that place where I'm super hangry. But if I have eaten lunch, and I recognize I'm not really hungry, but I'm searching for something, can I recognize that in myself and choose to take some kind of intentional break? In our culture, we are often working so hard and working long hours that we just think we should be able to work like robots, but that's not how our bodies function. We need to take breaks to drink water. We need to move our bodies. We need to give ourselves fuel during the day. We should get outside and get just a few breaths of fresh air or some sunshine or something. Is there something that I can reasonably substitute that is healthy and in alignment with my goals that would help me with that mid-afternoon slump? Figuring out these emotional triggers. Do I turn to food after I've talked to my sister who stressed me out about, I don't know, the things that she's anxious about? Do I turn to food when I'm feeling anxious? or mad? Is there a way that I can take care of my emotions in a different way rather than treating it with food? When we've got that pattern going on, it's often a very long-lived pattern. It's often something we have carried with us for many, many years. And so I do think it's really important that we be gentle with ourselves, that we start to first just notice. Just notice that that's happening. I notice that I'm grabbing a snack. I notice that I'm reaching for the candy jar. I notice that I head to the kitchen and I start grazing. If we start noticing, then we can get curious. Why am I searching for food right now? Am I bored? Am I angry? Am I anxious about something? Am I feeling stressed about something I just read in the news? If I can recognize what the emotional state is and even just take a little bit of a pause there, I may be able to make a different choice.